Hello, friends of Lance. Thursday, July 2nd, today was the first training session of the Brazilian national team aiming for the game against Norway next Sunday at MatchLife Stadium. Brazil trained today on a different field here at the New York Red Bulls Training Center, still in Columbia Park in Morristown. But now the training center, which used to be exclusive to the national team, is now a FIFA training center, so it's under FIFA's control. And the first change was a change of field.
Yeah, even the structural matters there, right? FIFA is now in charge of the field. Yeah, Brazil used the third field if we count from where we are. Yeah, towards the training fields, Brazil had never used that field before. In the minutes when we had access to the national team's training sessions. Yeah, it was the third field. Actually, the CBF's press office told us that field has the same grass as the MatchLife Stadium. The grass that even some players complained about on the day of the national team's debut against Morocco, saying that the grass was very dry, so much so that it was heavily watered. At halftime, Vinny Jr., at the end of the match against Morocco, also talked about the grass being dry and noticed that it was watered from time to time. So the national team did this training session, sponsored by FIFA sponsors already around the field, and the players used that pitch today during the training here at Columbia Park. It was another training session. We only had 15 minutes of access.
Without seeing anything,
That warm-up, but we had an important absence in the national team's training, which was Rayan, right? Adolzano.
Rayan was working in the locker room. Load management, according to the CBF's press office of the national team, so he's not a concern, according to the CBF's press office, for the game against Norway. The absence, of course, also of Lucas Paquetá, who is undergoing treatment after he got injured in the game against Japan on Monday. And Rafinha still wasn't seen doing ball work, at least not during those 15 minutes. There was an expectation that he might perhaps return to ball training, but that didn't happen. But in Tuesday's training, he was already back on the field.
We saw several photos released by the CBF. He followed the same protocol that Neymar did, right? He went through the whole medical recovery process, did physical therapy, went out on the field, and has been doing the transition work. We can tell from the photos that he's doing those change of direction drills, sprints, to see how his injury recovery is going. We don't think he'll be available for this game against Norway. It would be a surprise if Rafinha was included for this match, but if Brazil advances, I believe he could be ready for the quarterfinals. For the quarterfinals, Rafinha could already be an option for coach Carlo Ancelotti, right?
Yeah, I even think Rafinha will go to the match list in a situation similar to what happened with Neymar in the first game when Neymar also showed up. But there was a little note in the lineup saying he was injured, but he was still included. Why is that? Because the venue is really close to Morristown, about 30 minutes away by land. So it would actually be normal for Rafinha to show up at the stadium and travel with the team, something he hasn't done in the last few games. To stay, to prepare and follow the recovery protocol. Carlo Ancelotti led the team's first training today, with more sessions scheduled for Friday and Saturday. There will be a change, right? Paqueta is out, so who comes in for him?
We have a lot of questions and a lot of options that we've been showing here throughout the week. Yesterday, while we were talking, a name came up that we had forgotten. We really had forgotten the name. Ederson was the last player called up for the national team. He took Wesley's spot, who was cut right after the friendly against Egypt before the World Cup. And Ederson has roles very similar to Lucas Paquetá's and also to Danilo Santos's. So Ederson could also be an option that would change the team structure the least. The two changes for Paquetá's spot that wouldn't change the team much would be Douglas, or not Douglas, Danilo, or Ederson. Any other change that Ancelotti thinks about making to the team, he'll need to change very little. Especially with Matheus Cunha, who would be the player that would have to play a role more similar to Paquetá's. Maybe playing a little further back, or Ancelotti going back to a 4-2-4 in some way, but there would be a slight change in the team's formation, which I don't think is what Ancelotti is going to do. An important fact is that today it's very hot. It's really warm here today. I don't know if you can see it, but at least I'm here sweating, recording the report, talking to you guys. It's 36 degrees with a heat index of about 40 or 41.
41?
We're in the shade here.
You see,
The training center is back here.
it's on the tree trunk because we looked for shade.
Exactly. Everyone here is recording, talking to their audiences. There's a colleague back there, a buddy recording here too. Everyone is looking for some shade because the sun is blazing, it's really hot, and there isn't a cloud in the sky. We hope it stays dry. So far, we haven't had any problems with games or training being stopped because of rain, like our colleagues experienced recently in Miami.
But the team was delayed traveling to Miami because of that.
It's important. Rodrigo Caetano even talked to us before practice. With Brazil advancing, Brazil is even considering going to Miami earlier than usual, precisely to avoid this problem with weather, rain, not being able to land, not being able to take off. So, yes, everything is very well thought out. The planning by the CBF is very meticulous, even in the smallest details, so that the players are as rested as possible and can be on the field in the best possible condition.
Even regarding that, according to FIFA protocol, the teams can travel to the match locations on D-2 day -2, 2 days before the game. The limit, of course, is D1 also because there's a mandatory press conference for the coach and a player. Until now, the national team had always traveled the day before, following protocol. There's a chartered flight so they can set up the logistics themselves, but in this game in Miami, it was the second game of the stage, the second one, right?
It was the game against, no, it was the game with Scotland, the third game.
Yeah, Brazil had a problem because of the rain.
It was delayed a lot, 3 hours late.
FIFA had to postpone the press conference, delaying it by about 2 hours from the scheduled time.
Matias Cunha didn't attend the press conference, only his alternate was there.
And because of that, the CBF, the national team, is already planning that if they advance, they will start traveling 2 days in advance. Remember, if Brazil gets past Norway, they play in Miami, and if they advance again, they would play in Atlanta. There are only 4 days between trips.
The national team will go straight there. That's already decided. They'll go straight after the game. The question was whether they'd train for a day in Miami before heading to Atlanta, but they'll go directly, not returning to New Jersey. Let's hope the national team goes all the way.
But of course, before that, they have to get past Norway this Sunday. The match is at 4 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, 5 p.m. in Brasilia.
Important information here. At today's practice, there was a strong presence of international media, not just Norwegians. There were Spaniards, there was a Japanese reporter, and others as well at the training session today. But we can already see a change. Before it was only Brazilians here with the national team. Now we can see international media coming to cover the team as well. They have been having a very good campaign in the World Cup, getting their victories and showing growth throughout the matches they've played in the tournament.
Yeah, and the Brazilian national team here, despite what Yanaka said, as Yanaka said yesterday, the team, unlike other teams, has been improving throughout the competition. Brazil is doing what is expected of Brazil. They're advancing, they're improving, something that some European teams aren't managing to do.
Exactly. We see some teams struggling. England had difficulties. Belgium had difficulties. Yeah, France for me is the only team that's really showing their potential. Since the beginning, they've been playing well. When they speed up the game, Mbappe, Dembele, and Alice are playing really well. So I think that's it. The team is improving. I hope France starts to falter and we meet them later on and manage to win the title. The important World Cup games today, right, that we're going to have. Let's see what happens. It reminds me of the 1994 World Cup in the United States, which also had many surprises. We saw Romania, Bulgaria, and Sweden making it through. Romania beat Argentina. Bulgaria, if I'm not mistaken, beat Germany. So we had some really great matches in that World Cup. And I see that some strong teams are getting knocked out. Let's see, the Netherlands are already out. Who else is out? Germany's already out. So let's root either to see good matches or for these teams to make our path easier if we make it to the later stages, right?
Just to make one last comment, I'm positively surprised from a soccer perspective by the United States. The United States has been playing good matches in this World Cup. Our colleague Glenda Kozlovs, who stopped to take a picture of us here. The United States has been having a good World Cup, playing well, and has really excited the American fans. There's that myth that Americans don't like their soccer here, but no, people are really cheering a lot. The United States, which Brazil could only face in a possible final. And actually, there's even a TV commercial here, a TV ad that shows a World Cup final, Brazil and the United States. The score is tied until the 47th minute of the second half. Then there's a corner kick for the United States. The ball is crossed into the box. There's a header, and then the commercial ends. So it stays like that. It remains open. Well, commercials aside, Glenda Kozlovs aside, the Brazilian national team just finished their training a little while ago. And soon here at the training center, they'll train again this Friday. They'll train on Saturday. And we're following everything. And you know, the World Cup is here on Lance. So